Okay, everybody, thanks for coming and hanging in there for the late start here on the webinar series. This is the inaugural webinar series for 2016 for Moxie. Today we're going to be covering all things mobile, or at least our mobile best practices for digital channels. My name is Brian Strauss. I'm the Vice President of Field Engineering at Moxie, so I'm excited to be with you. Let's just jump into it and get started and get to the agenda. So what we really want to do is take a look at some of the mobile best practices across the digital engagement suite. What we've found, and what I've found, especially in my experience with our customers and visiting our customers, is that there's not always an understanding of, you know, what the mobile audience needs. And then how to sort of set up our digital channels platform to accommodate what they need. So I think obviously you folks all know that you have mobile customers coming to you, but the question is, sometimes we take for granted what we need to do from a mobile perspective. So we want to shine a light on a few of those things today. So as you look at the agenda here, we're going to kind of sprinkle all of these concepts throughout the presentation. This is less of a sequential agenda and more of the kinds of topics that we want to explore today at each one of the slides. So we'll be coming back to a lot of these things. So when we talk about realizing that our audience is mobile, obviously you know that, your audience is mobile, that you have mobile traffic. I think what is not always understood very well is exactly how incredible the mobile audience is from a statistics perspective, right? When the surveys are going out, when Forrester's conducting surveys and some of the analyst groups and other periodicals that are out there from the industry, we're just seeing some astounding figures, which kind of amps up the importance of this whole thing, right? Obviously, they're top left, 91% of all people on Earth have a mobile phone. And I think what's really indicative here is to understand is that, yeah, obviously it's not just that, that sort of wealthier people in a Western society have a mobile phone, but for some people, a mobile phone or a smartphone has become the method of connectivity to the internet for a lot of the developing world. Obviously, 56% on a smartphone. Some of these other statistics I think are particularly startling, right? Really understanding the importance of the email channel in a mobile context, and we'll be coming back to that. It's like one of the most important channels. And I think one of the important messages here, which isn't really expressed explicitly in this slide, is that as the advent of mobile phones has increased and as connectivity has gotten better and better, our consumption of the phone calls is going down, right? Some of you may experience this currently as flat, that phone calls are flat. A lot of you are experiencing the fact that phone calls are going down, and the reality is that a phone call isn't as reliable anymore as a chat or an email exchange or browsing the internet. So what we're finding is the customers are coming to our businesses, and we need to be ready to receive them, not just over voice, right? We need to be able to make sure our websites are enabling them to self-serve, and if they need to communicate with us, they can in a smooth fashion. So let's get into what we mean by sort of the underrated customer experience. What I've found is when I've been with Moxie now about 2 years, my background is in customer experience and analytics originally. So what I thought was really interesting when I started going and visiting customers was that they didn't really understand the importance of mobile from a customer experience perspective. And what I saw was that just about all of the chat providers out there, including Moxie at the time when I first joined, we really didn't have a mobile optimized experience. There was when people came to your site, chat, if they engaged with chat, it popped up in another window, right? And it wasn't really blended in with the brand of the website. And so there's a couple of different things that go on there that make it tough from a mobile perspective. So one is, on a desktop, it's fine. You got a nice big monitor, you pop up a little window, who cares? That's fine, Sure, the window may drift behind the browser from time to time, and while that might be annoying, you can typically find it. Much different on a mobile headset, mobile phone, right? So if another window pops up, it's really taking you completely out of the store or out of the e-business. I don't think we can take for granted that everyone is able to sort of dance between Safari or Chrome windows, Chrome tabs very easily, but that's exactly what happens in a mobile context. It tends to be this one-way flow. If you start having a conversation with somebody over chat, for example, then you don't have the ability. It's very hard for you to point them back to the site and continue that conversation at the same time. So when we talk about looking at a more mobile experience, you might hear the concept of responsive, right? So that's exactly what we want to get across to you. Sort of the best practice here is to make sure that as your mobile traffic is becoming statistically relevant, and for many of you, you got high double-digit percentages of traffic, right? Some of you have 50% mobile traffic at this point, maybe even more. Having a responsive framework is absolutely key. So what do we mean by responsive? Well, it means that the interface through which the customer is engaging with us is tuned for that environment. So having the ability that the form factor, the mobile chat window, sizes automatically to the tablet or to the smartphone that the person is looking at, that it doesn't pop up as a traditional separate window. A mobile responsive or a mobile optimized experience will appear as a layer in the page. It may have some transparency to it. It may give easy commands for the customer to go ahead and minimize it. It may give a beacon or an alert or a message when it's in a minimized state and the agent is still communicating. These are all very, very important things from a continuity perspective. Also, what's really, really important, traditionally with chat especially, someone has had to sort of leave where they are in the store or in the business and go find chat. Whether that means a long scroll to the bottom of the page, or whether that means going over to the Contact Us page and then looking up chat in sort of a traditional service footprint kind of mode, that really doesn't cut it. It's not great for desktop especially anymore, but in a mobile environment, it really doesn't cut it. So customers, it takes time that they don't have in a mobile session to go hunt down your chat. So make sure that it's available to them all times. A lot of, within Moxie, we make a big deal about having that tab there or having a similar button or a bell that you can see is always available to the customers. They can go find it when they need it, okay? Also, the back end, we need to understand that the user agent, on the user agent side of things, where the agents are chatting with folks within the agent console, making sure that they have the training and the know-how to understand and looking at the session properties to know when they're dealing with a mobile customer. Either you have a separate queue for those folks, a separate service line for those folks, or that you're training folks how to look at the session properties, look at the user agent to realize that they're on a mobile phone. Very, very important, because the style in which you might chat, the brevity, the commands you might use, your expectations for how they're going to respond to you may shift a little bit, right? Okay, so let's keep going. Some of those additional key features, right? Being able to browse and chat simultaneously. So one of the nice things within a mobile optimized context is an agent can push a link to a customer, and that link can help the person navigate. If they tap the link, it can take them to the page if the agent wants to show them something without them having to navigate and use the menus on the site, without having to type anything into the URL bar. The mobile optimized will take the person where they need to go. A really nice one is the ability to use geolocation capabilities. So there's two different ways to do this. Certainly you can target people on phones and in specific locales with different types of proactive engagements or specific proactive engagements for them to alert them that there's special service and special offerings for mobiles in different places. But then you can also you can ask them for permission to look at their mobile, to look at their location so that you can see where they are relative to your brick and mortar environment if that's applicable to you. One of the things we always strive to do, right, is to connect users to offline in an omni-channel context, being able to recommend if someone wants to find a product, they can't find it online, there's a store nearby, there's a bank branch, come on in, we can help you. You can see where the location is relative to other places where, you know, some of your businesses are. Really important one. Having a technology suite like the Moxie's 9.4 edition allows you to have a resilient connection. So if the connection drops, you're allowed to pick up that connection when when the connection drifts in and out of range. Being able to have a resilient connection so you can connect back to that agent and not drop the conversation. Obviously, thinking about, you know, in a retail or an insurance environment where if you had the ability to take a picture of the accident and send it up to the claims person immediately, or, you know, you're in a store and you want to show someone the ability to, you have this sweater in a different color and different size, being able to have those features enabled, you know, there with a little paper clip there, being able to send those up is really, really important. Okay, so this is another one that I've found is interesting. You know, we kind of take email for granted. You know, it's kind of an old school technology as far as the internet age goes at this point. It's something that we don't always put a lot of thought in, and certainly we don't think of it as a really important in the mobile context, or maybe we don't. And I really want to bring this around again. It's critical in a mobile environment, and there's a couple of really important reasons for that. First of all, at this point now, the overwhelming majority of email is opened on a mobile device. So if, as marketers and as organizations, you have calls to action within that that's going to bring somebody back to your site, guess what? You are generating a ton of mobile traffic. You want to be ready to engage with them. Also, you want to be able to realize that they're going to respond to you directly within those emails. And in fact, they may or may not. There may be different situations for a mobile user where, sure, they're certainly able to engage with you on a chat or maybe on in a phone call if they don't have to be on the website. But boy, a lot of the conversations that they want to be able to have with you are going to be more asynchronous in nature. I have a minute or two now while I'm waiting to get on my flight. I'm going to send you a quick message. While I'm in the air, I'm hoping for a response. I land, I see this. I'm going to send you another query or thank you for your response. So the point there is that often in a lot of mobile use cases require asynchronous, irregular interval conversations. Email is critical for that. So having an email management solution that makes sure that is monitoring the SLA, the time between responses for everybody, but especially for a mobile audience is critical. So make sure that you have an email system that's for all the marketing that you're doing and all the communications you're doing that might be open on a mobile device, that you've got the email system tuned for mobile audience. Okay, so this is a big one, and this is something that is kind of struck me in the face when I came to Moxie. So, you know, a lot of times, sometimes people think of Moxie as a chat company or an email company or digital, you know, a knowledge-based company or any of the above. But what I found is really interesting is that basically chat is a great thing. It's a great tool when you need it. Email is a great tool when you need it. But the reality is that people don't always expect to come to a website and chat with you or to have to reach out to you on the phone. Certainly they're there if you need them, but a lot of times what we're showing is that more and more people have the expectation that they want to self-serve. So they want to get it done on their own. So that doesn't mean they don't need help. It just means they want to get it done without talking to somebody. And what we find is that this is overwhelmingly true within the millennial generation. As many as 36% will start their support interaction or will look out for help or questions through a help interface. So again, making sure that the self-service that you offer folks is mobile optimized and responsive, right? So again, whether that's a help page that that is elastic and adjusts, frequently asked questions page, a knowledge-based page that adjusts automatically and tunes itself to the form factor that the customer is coming to you, that all of the functions are available, not just a portion of the functions is available. You know, it can help the customer self-serve. We don't want to be kicking them to the desktop and saying, if you were on the desktop, you'd have much more features here, or we can't really help you in a mobile context. Go ahead and channel shift and call us on the phone. Really, those are not great experiences and are not living up to the expectations that customers have. The newer concept, of course, is contextual knowledge, right? So that's, the idea that throughout the experience you can bring knowledge to bear much in the way that you could a chat. So again, supporting self-service, we now have techniques to make responsive contextual knowledge available so that throughout the journey, dynamically, you can present different tips or suggestions that could help a customer make a buying decision or prevent them from abandoning. So that's something that's really, really important. And sort of the last one, the one that I want to talk about last today, is really about the mobile app. So the quintessential mobile experience, in some ways, I'm finding is sort of ignored the most from a digital channels perspective. And I have some suspicions in talking to some of my customers. So what I mean by that is the actual app that you might download from a marketplace or from the Apple App Store to get those apps loaded on your phone. These are incredibly important retention devices, right? These are where your customers who like doing business, you prefer to come in many ways to continue those interactions, doing those thumbprint logins, being able to have just a continuous web session. It's really the preferential way for your repeat customers. But what I'm finding is that not just for digital channels, but for analytics in general and for supporting these customers, it tends to be a very lonely environment for whatever reason. And I think it's because in some ways it takes more thought. A web page is a web page is a web page across desktop and mobile web in some ways. But we have to be more creative because the concept of a page isn't the same in an app, right? So what's our technique? We requires a different skill set, different developers to develop these things. But it doesn't make it less important, and it doesn't mean that those customers don't need support, don't need chat, don't need knowledge, don't need email access. So we need to try to bring the project to get to get digital channels into the apps. We all need to work together to get those higher in the priority stack so that we make sure we can take care of those individuals. That's a big one. I'm just sort of seeing whenever we start talking about mobile, oh yeah, we're getting to our apps sometime. We're going to get there. We'll eventually get there. I think that's kind of a mistake. We really need to make sure that we lend greater priority to supporting these customers in a native context, regardless of the challenges. Let's figure them out. Okay. So just to recap again, and then I'll open up for a few questions and answer, Q&A session here a little bit, if anybody has anything. Right, so let's just take a look here. Move to a responsive chat framework, right? Really, really important. Pop-up is not only bad for desktops, it's death within a mobile context. So if your mobile audience is seeing a pop-up chat and you think chat isn't going that well for you, well, that could be the solitary reason. Realize, again, that email is a top mobile channel, okay? And make sure that email is tuned and you're broadcasting and ready to receive email interactions from your mobile audience. Again, in that omni-channel vein, make sure that you consider using geolocation to help people navigate to your brick and mortar environment as relevant. Okay, and then realizing that a vast majority of mobile users can benefit from self-service and want to self-serve, and making sure that your help and support knowledge offering is mobile optimized and responsive. And then again, it's lonely out there in the mobile app land. Let's work together to figure out how we can get digital channels into your apps at a more prioritized rate. Okay, so I'm gonna now shift into a little Q&A here. Let me see if I can unmute some folks. All right, so if anybody has a question that they'd like to see, I've unmuted you all. So if you're not muted on your own phones and you're not speaking, if you would do me a favor in muting your connection, that would be helpful. But if you have a question you'd like to ask, feel free. Here's some furious typing. Any questions at all on what we just talked about? Anything else you're curious about in the mobile landscape? All right. Well, thank you for attending today. Appreciate it. Look forward to sharing you with the next session, which will be the same time next Friday. Hopefully we get off the ground a little bit quicker. Appreciate your attention, and thank you very much.